To my fellow astrologers, I would like to give this talk about true geocentrism and how astrology really works. This is my take on it, and what is really important is that astrology is geocentric, has always been. But actually the situation we're in now is that all astrologers almost have adopted the heliocentric model, which means that they still subscribe to the idea that the Earth is a spinning ball and the solar system is out in space and we're circling around the sun and so on. This is so completely obvious for everybody, and if you try to introduce the idea that maybe the heliocentric model is wrong, then you are completely out of the ball game. And that has happened to me in the sense that trying to get these ideas published in like Mountain Astrologer or in the Danish magazine Stjernerne, and on our blog or Facebook active page in Norway discussing astrology and so on, I've been completely banned introducing these ideas of true geocentrism. So I would like to give a kind of an introduction to what true geocentrism really is, and hopefully this is, as I see it, a complete revolution for astrology, because first of all it explains what astrology is, and secondly it makes astrology into science, into natural science. At the moment astrology is some kind of symbolic ball game which nobody really can explain how works, but if you hang on to this explanation, you might get a glimpse of or a refreshed view on how this fantastic science astrology is and how it works, and the reason why in many cultures, and in ours probably civilization ourselves, is the main science, and why that was so. So this I will try to kind of get a grasp on. So the idea that astrology is geocentric means that we are looking at the sky, the planets and the stars and the moons and so on. We look at it from the point of view of the Earth, how it actually looks on the sky. And then for most astrologers, then you do the abstraction in your mind that it is actually the Earth that is spinning, that is creating this illusion that it seems like the sun and the moon is moving across the sky. So the geocentric model is trusting what we're actually seeing, that's seeing, no, it actually is the sun moving and it is the moon that is moving. In this talk I will not go into the arguments for why we live on a flat plane of existence and why that geocentrism is actually the right model, because there's plenty of videos out there advocating flat Earth, and I recommend you to look at some of them and make up your own mind, because nobody can be convinced about this, because nobody can be convinced against their own will. So there is an enormous resistance once you just say that the Earth is flat. I mean, people are just pulling the brakes, even though if they're astrologers and kind of should be kind of open-minded, because you're kind of used to that people are very close-minded towards astrology. But my experience is that when it comes to the heliocentric model, astrologers are equally dogmatic as the most hard-cooked materialistic scientists. So this is a kind of an awkward situation. I mean, I thought we were kind of open-minded people, and we should welcome ideas such as the flat Earth, which is a very, very challenging concept. And I was introduced to it first by Santos Bonacci, who is a astrologer that I highly respect. And when he introduced the idea of the Earth being flat, I kind of really, thought that he had gone off his loose end, and what was happened to him. But I couldn't deny the fact that the guy is an extremely intelligent man, and what he's been saying so far has been incredibly inspiring and knowledgeable. And so I had to take him seriously and then say, okay, let me find out how can such an intelligent man come to such a conclusion that the earth is flat. And so I had to look into the arguments, and when I see the arguments, it's a complete no-brainer. I mean, anybody with the ability to think logically cannot come to another conclusion. It's impossible. I mean, water is horizontal, water is flat, just for that, that's just. But there is hundreds of arguments out there, and so far I have not seen any argument that convinces me of the ball theory, that the Earth is a ball spinning in space. It's just completely ridiculous. But anyway, so he convinced me, and so that's the kind of the attitude I think what we need to have. We need to be open-minded. But the problem with the flat Earth is not really the logic. The problem is the consequences. Because if you accept that the idea of that the Earth is flat, that means that we've been fooled for 500 years. That means that the people in charge are criminals, and that might be for some that's not a surprise. But for some, it is a very uncomfortable idea that the people who actually have power over us, we cannot trust, and they don't seem to have our best interests. So that opens up a can of worms that if you haven't done kind of basic 101 conspiracy theories, flat Earth is like being hit by a bus. Although it is the ultimate conspiracy theory, because it ties into the synthetic worldview that our culture has produced deliberately. So that goes together with what I would call the 4 basic dogmas of science, which is the first one is the Big Bang, and the second one is evolution by Darwin, and the third one is gravitation, and the fourth is the heliocentric model. This is the synthetic worldview that disconnects us from nature. And it's the fundamental mind programming of the fundamental mind control and the programming of humanity on the whole, and is much more effective than religion. Now you could say that religion was the first stage of mind programming, of mind control, but since people became more educated and knowledgeable, you needed some kind of more sophisticated system of mind control, and therefore particularly those 4 dogmas of science, which is impossible to prove scientifically, and is a pure speculation and has some enormous consequences. The consequences of Big Bang is that there is no meaning in life, and the consequence of that everything is chaos, everything just happens by accident, there is no creator, there is no purpose, there is no meaning, and whatever meaning you would find is just a private issue and your own fantasy. So that is a kind of a very kind of destructive, what shall I say, worldview that we are being completely indoctrinated with through every media channel, education system, science, whatsoever. And it's not even up for discussion. So, and what the heliocentric model does is that it reduces the human being to a grain of sand, and even just a speck of a dust or whatever. We become absolutely nothing when there is, as they say, billions of galaxies out there, which is, okay, fair enough, but the thing is that if you have the idea of the flat Earth, then the human being is the center of the creation. And there is we live in an intelligent, designed, and purposely full, ordered world, which is very, very obvious for anybody with the eyes to see. So what the point here is that this whole new worldview, or actually the ancient old worldview that you find in all cultures across the world, which is that we live on a flat, horizontal plane of existence. That is very hard to take on, not necessarily because it's logic, but because of the consequences. The consequences is enormous. And our worldview is something that people have a kind of a addictive relationship to, and presenting these ideas is for most people very, very provocative, very, very uncomfortable. You're being pushed out of your comfort zone, and that seems to happen even for astrologers. So to hang on onto this, so let's get going here. So one really important question everybody should ask themselves is, where does the universe end? It's a very simple question and has a very simple answer. And most people kind of avoid that question and says, well, that's impossible. We kind of think about that. We get kind of a headache by thinking, where does the universe end? Because it had to end somewhere, right? You know, if you go far enough out into space, there has to be a sign that says the end of the world. And but then the next question comes, what's behind that sign? And what is outside of that again? Okay? So the point is that the universe cannot have an end. That's impossible. Non-existence is not possible. You cannot come out and say, well, here is nothing, because then you are already present, saying that here is something, there is nothing. Okay? So by that said, that means the consequence of that the world does not have an end. The consequence of that is that the world is not physical. It seems very physical. We're surrounded by a lot of objects that has location in time and space. But the existence in itself does not have location in time and space. So existence in itself does not exist in time, and it does not exist in space. So that makes the world into something, not a material object. We're not in a material world. We are in a state of consciousness. The world is a consciousness phenomenon. The world is appearing in consciousness. So this is basically what philosophically is an idealistic point of view, like you would find in philosophers like particularly Plato, who had this point of view, and where my basic source is the Vedic Indian cosmology, which is completely clear on that life is a non-dual phenomenon, that the reality is non-dual, and duality appears in time and space as movement within the non-dual reality. The analogy which can explain this is like the ocean and the waves, in the sense that the whole created world is like the waves in the ocean. And the ocean represents existence and consciousness. And there is no kind of contradiction between the two, in the sense that the waves is an effect of the ocean, and the waves is dependent on the ocean. But the ocean is not dependent on the waves. You can have the ocean without the waves, but you cannot have the waves without the ocean. So this is our situation. This is what the world is. The world is a plane of existence. It's a dream world. Although it's like a computer game. The world is the matrix. But this is just so well made. There is so high resolution here, and you can participate in the world through the five senses, and you can also act in the world through your hands and feet and your body and so on. And so we're participating in a computer game in the matrix of life. Okay, so this is the alternative worldview. This is an idealistic worldview that life is a consciousness phenomenon. And where astrology comes into the picture is like, if you look at the most ancient mythologies and religions, they start up with this concept of a non-dual world, in the sense of God or Atman or consciousness or Brahman or whatever you want to call it. That this, or Tao, like in Taoism, like there is this oneness, there is existence, there is what physicists will call unlimited potential, but there is no creation yet. So there is this nothingness which is full with its potential to create. And so what happens is that out of this non-dual world, there appears, for non-explainable reasons, there appears a polarity. there is all of a sudden there is a polarity between two forces, plus and minus, spirit and matter, yin and yang, masculine, feminine, Shiva, Shakti, and so on. And so out of this polarity of yin and yang and opposite forces, then objects is being created within the non-dual world. And then all of a sudden you have dualism, and you have this dualistic world that we are experiencing and living in. And so this is the basic formula of the one dividing into two, and from this you get this enormous creation of billions and billions of life forms in different variations. And so if you take this parallel to what happens on a computer, it is the same thing. It's the same kind of way of creation, in the sense that everything that you experience on a computer screen or a TV screen is the mathematical combinations of two figures, 0 and 1. And so also within the computer world, it has this same starting point, that there is a polarity between two opposite forces. And all the complex mathematical combinations between these two figures is creating this whole illusionary dream world that we are experiencing on any screen close by, okay? And so here's the thing that the world, the matrix of the world, is the computer screen, or what is happening in your mind, the way you perceive what is going on in the world. That is the inner computer screen, which is designed through mathematical combinations of electromagnetic forces within the field of existence. And so here is my take on it, that this is exactly what astrology is about, because astrology is about the mathematical combinations between the planets and the stars in the sky. And that is what is kind of creating the computer language of the virtual reality of the world that we're living in. And this was understood by the ancients, and therefore the mathematics was developed, and also the study of the planets and the stars, because that is the God's own language. That is how the world is designed. And so if you understand that language, you will understand the deeper energetic combinations of what creates this world. And the deeper you can go into it, the more knowledge you can have, and you can make accurate predictions and so on. And of course, the astrology that we do have today, it's more or less reduced to a kind of a psychology, and we're only scratching the surface of the potential of the knowledge that is inherent in this amazing, amazing, amazing knowledge. But you have to get it right and to understand the worldview that astrology originally is coming from. That is coming from a geocentric understanding of the world, which is the true understanding, which is we're living on a flat plane of existence, and life is a consciousness phenomenon. So we have to kind of break down the materialistic worldview. We have to break down this dualistic understanding of the world and go deeper and understand what it means to have a non-dualistic vision of the world. So this is my contribution to really vitalize astrology, because this is a complete revolution in the understanding of astrology, making astrology into science. And actually what astrology is all about is actually to explain how the world works. And there is some, what you could say, there is some actual forces at play here. It's not like, okay, we're operating with a model that there is a mirroring, so as above, so below, and so on. But the connection is much more direct. So it's like the mathematical combination of the planets and stars has a kind of a direct influence on what goes on in the world, in the same way as the mathematics of computer programs has a direct influence on what is happening on the screen. So it's not just a symbolic kind of synchronicity that is going on in my understanding of astrology, but it's real forces here at play and it's the essential forces of the universe. So I believe also that the people in power, they know about this. The one thing is that they create this synthetic worldview, but the main thing is that there is a compartmentalization of knowledge, that you can have all specialists in all different kinds of fields, but the whole picture is never being presented. To present the whole picture, that information is kept away from the human race. So people is not going to. So this is esoteric knowledge that is being kept away from most people. It is available for those who kind of really want to go into it and study it, but it's not a part of science. It's not a part of the educational system, and so therefore it's not that easy and that accessible. You really have to think outside of the box on a lot of different subjects to kind of attain this perspective, and it's, as I see it, it's a part of the mind control of the human race. So there is a lot of potential in readopting the geocentric model of the world, and realizing that this is not a material world. It's a dream world. It's an energetic, electromagnetic, energetic field that we're existing in. So with this being said, this was just my take on it to explain why I am banned from the most prestigious astrological magazine. They don't want to. I've written a substantial article about explaining these ideas, and this Danish magazine, they actually accepted the article, but then they got cold feet, and after a while, they wouldn't publish it after all. So this is a complete taboo subject, and but truth is truth, and I'm a lover of truth, and this is the way I see it, and I would like to just share these ideas for those who is willing to listen and to see the absolute revolution that this represents for astrology. So, for better astrology, thank you for listening.